He's a local guy. He's a former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, Randy Grimes, former Baylor Bear, is with us. This is the third year in a row we've gotten a chance to talk to Randy, whose story is unique and cool.
Thank you.
Randy, good afternoon. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
And you're doing great because there was a time in your life when you weren't doing great. When we talked to you 3 years ago, I think in Fort Lauderdale, the first time we met you, you had just started this program and started talking about
just came into the program,
your addiction to painkillers after your NFL career. Where are you now in that? Where are you now?
Right now, well, I'm here promoting a retired athlete program that I've been able to start. Well, just since we talked last year, you know, this thing has really taken off in the last year. I've been able to help a lot of retired guys, not only from the NFL, but from hockey, baseball, basketball. And word is really getting out what I'm trying to do because, you know, we as retired athletes, not only do we have a lot of substance abuse issues, but we've got so many underlying things that we just drag around with us the rest of our lives, you know, like grief and loss. And, you know, the loss of your career is like a death with a lot of these guys. I know it was with me. Because once I retired from football, I didn't realize I didn't know what I was going to do with the rest of my life because I was a football player. That's all I'd ever been.
Had you given it any thought while you were playing? What am I going to do when this is over?
You do think about it, but then again, you never really think, you know, you're going to be that guy whose career lasts forever. You know, you're not really going to have to face it, and you're going to have enough money to transition you through the rest of your life. And, of course, it never works out like that. And, you know, I still remember the day that Sam Weiss put his hand on my shoulder and told me, you know, that they weren't going to need my services anymore. And I can remember, you know, after 10 years, we talked about this before, after 10 years in Tampa Bay, after all the seasons, all the head coaches, all the offensive line coaches, all the losses, all the blood, sweat, and tears, I packed my stuff in a black trash bag and walked out the back door. And, you know, I hung on to that resentment and that anger of the way my career ended for a long time. And I think that, you know, that had a lot to do with the way that my substance abuse went. You know, yeah, I had a lot of chronic pain that I was medicating. But, you know, I crossed that line. I always say injuries were the reason I started taking the medication, and then they became an excuse to keep taking it because I was, you know, addressing all these other issues. So back to the program, you know, we've been able to help guys get through all these issues, and we have a chronic pain deal where we can address that. And the guys don't have to live on medication the rest of their lives like we think we do. You know, there was a point where I couldn't get out of bed without a handful of pills. But I know now that that's not true. I can live without a handful of pills.
How bad did it get?
It got really bad. You know, I would never say that I was ready to die, but let me just say that I didn't care if my next handful of pills was my last. You know, I was at that point because I remember the day that when I finally did drop the pride and ego that kept me out there, when I finally reached out, which is the hardest thing professional athletes can do, and that's why we have such a hard time identifying who needs help. But once I finally said, I need help, I can't do this on my own, I fell out of the car at the treatment center and literally crawled in on my hands and knees. That's where this brought me.
Let's talk about some fun stuff now. Let's take you back to high school, Robert E. Lee. National
Mighty
signing,
Red Raiders.
The Mighty Red Raiders. Wednesday was National Signing Day. You remember all that stuff?
I remember that. Just like, you know, Coach Bill Lane from Baylor University. He was down there and he was trying to, you know, really they wanted Kent Townsend, and they knew that maybe if they got me to sign, they could get Kent to come up there with me. So. You know, they signed me and Kent, and I remember Andy Lacey went to TCU. We had a big signing day. We had like 7 or 8 guys that signed with some nice schools. But yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday.
And
I remember flying on the Baylor had a plane, and they flew me and Kent up to Baylor and back. Coach Bill Lane, tight ends coach at Baylor when I was there. He was. They let me. That was first. They let me kind of fly too. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. Sorry, NCAA. But
hey, it's the statute of limitations.
With those guys, you never know, right?
And now Baylor. I mean, you had some good days at Baylor, but boy, Baylor. I mean, look at what's happened.
And can I just say that I'm the original RG?
Yeah, that's right. You're RG1.
I'm RG1. I don't know who 2 is, but I'm RG1.
Right. And just the whole college experience, and then going to the NFL. How big a jump? You know, from Robert E. Lee High School. And then you're playing for the Tampa Bay Bucs in the National Football League. I mean, that you were good. Everybody knew you were good. But still, in your wildest imagination, had you pictured that in your mind's eye?
No. you play as hard as you can every day. You try to be the best you can, and you don't know how things are going to turn out. You just kind of hope for the best, and luckily I was a good enough athlete to where I could keep going from one level to the next level to the next. But I wouldn't trade any of it. People ask me all the time, knowing what you know now, would you go back and do anything different? And absolutely not. I had a great career. I loved every place that I played. Yeah, we never made it here when I was in Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay was a great place to play. Played with a lot of good athletes and made a lot of good friends, and it is what it is. And I wouldn't change a thing.
Toughest player you played against?
Well, that would be like you have to go back to like the Klecko days. Joe Klecko, Michael Carter at San Francisco. Some of those defensive lines at San Francisco were just unstoppable. Going against Singletary twice a year. Even though I played that guy at Baylor, he's the one that broke me in. He taught me how to be a good center. I still had to play that guy twice a year for the next 10 years in Chicago. So those are the games I remember, and those were the hard. Jerry Ball at Detroit.
Texas boys.
Yeah, those kind of games.
Funniest thing. Any one memory, just something happened during a game?
My very first start, I had to start at left guard against the Cowboys. It was my rookie year, and it was in Dallas, too. Everybody was there. My whole family had a lot of friends there. I had no idea I was even going to play that day, but our left guard mysteriously blew a hamstring in warm-ups because he knew he was going to have to face Randy White. So they threw me in there. Never played guard in my life, and I can just remember I said yes, sir, to him about 5 or 6 times. But we went to the Hall of Fame the next year, and as we were going through the Hall of Fame, we played in the game, Hall of Fame game. And as we were touring the Hall of Fame the next year as a team, I turned the corner, and there was a huge picture of Randy White reaching over me and grabbing, I think it was Jerry Goldstein was quarterback at the time, grabbing him, and that made it to the Hall of Fame. That was from the previous year, and everybody was giving me a hard time about it because I was just completely crushed under the pile with Randy White just fixing to sack the quarterback. But I can remember that play, too, and I remember him helping me up. He helped me up and then helped the quarterback up, and that was my, just saying yes, sir, and being broke into the NFL by Randy White was my crowning moment.
But these are better days for you now, aren't
Absolutely. Absolutely. Better days. I've been able to help a lot of guys, and by helping other guys, I help myself every day.